Each karma is like that force that obligates the soul to undergo the effect of its action when that particular activity takes place. Just as the quality of a seed depicts the tree's health in the future, the intensity of the karma performed expresses the nature, type, and duration of the same in future at the very specific time that particular karma is executed. Acharya Umaswati describes there are 8 principal types of karmic bondage: knowledge covering, intuition covering, sensation, deluding, lifespan, body status, and obstruct. Examples of these karmas can be observed in our surroundings, though the degrees may vary. For example, going to school or college for a degree can be the simplest example of a step towards peeling the knowledge obscuring karma. However, in the context of knowledge, it is much higher and refers to the direct knowledge, pratyaksha gyan, the first step of which begins with realizing the self. Similarly, the example of intuition covering karma can be felt by getting a clearer perception of events, objects, and people. Sensation karma occurs in the feelings of a healthier body or pain in any part of the body. Deluding, mohanya karma, is the most dangerous of all karmas, as it does not let the veil of ignorance get lifted due to the irrational affection of the soul towards any of the relationships, objects, etc. Lifespan karma is the specific age one lives for. Body-making karma decides if the being will have a healthier or a defective body. Status karma determines the family one takes birth in. And obstructive karma either removes the interruptions on one's way towards knowledge, realization, etc., or enhances them. Interestingly, the 8 types of karma can be further grouped into two ways. One category belongs to those which have negative effects on the soul, and at the same time, the soul can shed them with its efforts, known as ghati karma, namely knowledge obstructing jnana varnya, perception covering darshan varnya, delusion karma mohanya, and obstructive antaraya. Whereas the second category has the rest of the 4, which are once bound, will only be shed when their time is complete. At the same time, these do not affect the workings of the soul. They are known as aghati karma. In this group, we have age, ayu, body-making karma, nama karma, societal status, gotra, and feeling of affliction, vedanya. The aghati karma determine the longevity, the personal appearance, the social circumstances, and sensitivity to pleasure and pain of the individual. However, each of these karmas has further subdivisions, and they are 5 subgroups of knowledge obscuring karma, 9 subgroups of intuition obscuring karma, 2 subgroups of vedanya karma, 28 subgroups of mohanya karma, 4 subgroups of ayu karma, 103 subgroups of nama karma, 2 of gotra karma, and 5 subgroups of antaraya karma. One may not think of any further subdivisions of karma. Each subgroup takes one to a newer understanding of how minutely the laws of cosmos work. The great philosophy indicates that karmic particles are material in nature, and their substance is pudgal, matter, which enacts in aggregates of atoms. And the atom theory explains how pudgal particles combine to form larger units. These theories have been compared to Indian as well as non-Indian atomic theories. Karma is the law of universe that acts in a purely rational and scientific way. Jaina karma can also be helpful to understand the symmetry in the cosmos. When one dives a little deeper into the understanding of karma, as described in Jainism, one feels the immense freedom it provides. For there is no one whom one is answerable to, for any of one's deeds, but to oneself. This understanding equips one to take absolute command of one's life. Interestingly, the karma principle is neither something that a godlike authority has applied, nor is merely the subject matter to be grasped through emotions. However, it motivates us to keep our eyes open, to understand these natural laws, and keep strengthening our knowledge about the same through self-study and self-experience to understand the same better. Hence, we see that despite being ancient, it is based on the principles which can be openly and rationally discussed. However, the theory, even most of the Jainas emphasize today, is of strict following of ethics. No one pays heed to the fact that even in the very roots of ethics lies the theory of karma. Understanding karma philosophy starts from one's own experiences. If one is eating infected food, one is bound to have a stomach infection. If one is typing the wrong spellings of a particular word into the computer, the printout will only display the same. Similarly, when one thinks about life beyond death or before birth, one can have this realization that one's present circumstances are the result of the actions performed by one in the past. Be it this or any of the prior lives. And the present reactions will act as the cause of the future effects, eventually influencing this life and the lifetime to come. Just as I can harm my health in this life by certain unwise actions, I can harm the quality of my next life by certain other actions. No matter how strong or mild a specific karma is, each karma has a life, and after that, it separates out from the karma body. The shedding of karma from the karma body is known as nirjara. One of the numerous examples of nirjara in our daily lives is one's effort towards losing weight. Nirjara, or shedding of karma, can be done in two ways. To let the karma finish its lifespan and get separated. And the second is through efforts. Whereas, we are supposed to exercise and eat a balanced diet to lose the karma of excess body weight. We can shed other types of karma by performing specific related tasks. In Panchastika, referring to the immoral linkage between the soul of the karmic matter, it is mentioned the jiva, soul, and karma pudgal, karmic matter, are mutually tied deeply. At their time of fruition, the karma gives fruits to the soul in the form of joy and sadness. The jiva is bound to endure that fruit. After giving fruit, the karma sheds off. The soul has been caught in this cycle of cause and effect since time immemorial, and this cycle may go on till infinity if the soul remains unawakened. However, it has been mentioned in ancient texts of wisdom that the moment it awakens through the right knowledge and starts perceiving everything rightly, this cycle becomes finite. We must peep into the karma theory to understand human behavioral patterns, and many other complicated emotional and mental issues. Indeed, most of one's traits in the present life are genetic. But the presence of past karmic accounts is another important instrumental cause. The pattern of human action is set originally during embryonic development under the control of DNA, which in itself is partly inherited and partly karmic. Under the microscope of karma, even inheritance is karmic. By its temperature, the candle draws the wax through the wick and simultaneously converts it into its body, the glow. This is what the consciousness does exactly. With its attributes to attachment, rag, and aversion, dvesh, it gathers the material aggregates, which turn into karma through its activities. For example, a desire to construct a new house motivates one to earn money, buy land, prepare maps, take the required grants from the respective departments, hire an architect, laborers, etc. And even after the house is made, one has to maintain it to keep it clean and up to date continuously. This is the simple example of binding karma through the soul's efforts of attachments. When discussing the solitariness of the infinite journey of life and death, one contemplates why others came into touch with me in the form of different relationships, etc., and how others' karmas are associated with one. To solve this query, the following statement can be held. You don't live with the consequences of other people's karma. You live with the consequences of your own. And these consequences are not only caused, but also their effect is endured by oneself and no other. However, different relationships, events, and personalities come into the picture to bring these consequences in front of us. In Indian culture, glimpses of a deeper understanding of karma theory can be traced almost in every household, from the words of the elders. For example, thinking of different complicated relationships as the reason for settling some previous karmic account. In the context of clearing of karmic accounts, Brian Weiss writes, you progress by paying your debts. You determine what must be done to pay that debt. Here lies the freedom of that specific individual, as one is supposed to choose how the accounts would be cleared, be it the context of relationships or any other. Each of us has to endure many ups and downs that bother us. But if we start to see and analyze everything under the canopy of karmic accounts, the images begins to get clearer, and we start having faith in not carrying over the account further, but in clearing it here and now. This is the beauty of karma philosophy, that it leaves no stone unturned, even in improvising a person. Often, one doubts why one has to endure most from one's closest relationships. The alphabets, especially Hindi, that are spoken using the same parts of speech mechanism, belong to the same family, are also being written and also kept together in the chart. An alphabet from the other group has nothing much to do with a specific group of alphabets until used in a verb. We can see relationships in the same light. Relationships are a living laboratory or field test to determine how we are doing, whether our lessons have been learned. They are relationships that keeps taking one's test to check if one has truly evolved during the journey of life or not. Often, we are taught to focus on materialistic success. Surprisingly, no one tells us what we will take when we depart from this world. One has to conclude the same on one's own. Through this life's experiences and observations, that when we die and our soul progress to higher dimensions, we take our behaviors, our deeds, our thoughts, and our knowledge with us. And not even a bit of materialistic possessions travel with us in our future journeys. This contemplation motivates one to keep within and enhances the ethics in each dealings of one's life. One transforms when one realizes one will not meet one's possession in the afterlife, but one's loved ones, whom one loses during the journey of life and whose separation seemed unbearable. Karma in Jainism is a form of subtle matter that encases the soul. By doing so, it obscures knowledge and understanding of reality. The beauty of the Jaina karma philosophy lies in its scientificness. When one realizes that there is no one to keep account of one's karma, one becomes confident and takes command of one's life in his own hand. This is but the need of the hour. When everyone has lost self-confidence and looking up to some divine power for help, Jain philosophy teaches one to be independent through its well-elaborated karma doctrine. The subatomic matter of which karmic matter is made is called karmons. These tiny karmons roam around in space without interacting each other. But at the same time, they have the attribute of getting united with similar particles when and as needed. Karmons are unique in the sense that they can only be absorbed by the soul and cannot fuse by themselves. Hence, individually, they do not harm the consciousness. They can only enact when they are in conjunction with the soul. Each action of the consciousness attracts karmons towards it. Karmons that come and stick with it accordingly to the intensity of the intents of the soul, which eventually decides the duration of this stay. The more the aggregates of karmons, the heavier one's karmic baggage is. When an evil person comes in contact with a good human being, gradually the goodness of the other influences him. Though the good one has his journey that has nothing to do with the bad one, he still influences him in some way or the other. Though the good person will not stay with the bad one forever, he still leaves a mark on his character, which may eventually bring positive changes in his persona. Also, there is an equal possibility that if the bad person is stronger and more intense in his ways than the good one, the effect can be reversed. This way, despite having their own individual journeys, both of them affect each other. Similarly, the soul, being the non-material substance, none of the karmic matters gets really attached to the soul. However, it gets influenced by the surrounding karmons, which alters its character. The effect of the positive or negative karmic matter, along with the perverted or righteous energy fields of the consciousness, creates a force field, which causes the influx of the karmic matter towards the soul. Both these effects are part of an aspect of reality known to the Jains as asava. Asarva occurs from all directions at all times, as their consciousness is never bereft of action. Now, the karmic force couples with the energy field of the soul and encases it according. We call this process karmic fusion. But in traditional Jain terms, it is an aspect of bandha. In simple language, asra is the door through which newer karma continuously enters the soul's ambit and fuses with the previously present karmas and the soul's energy field. The intensity of the intent at the time of performing that specific karma plays a vital role in this process, as it decides the other factors of the newly bound karmas, that is type, duration, etc. Lesha or karmic colourations. The mental and emotional garbage we carry inside surrounds us all the time and conveys the same energy to others. This is why we feel positive after meeting someone and drained after meeting the other. Today, people may call it aura or vibes, but the Jain philosophy has a more profound word for that, which is lesha, thought colors. Lesha has been defined as the temper of the soul in which kashaya, that is anger, pride, deceit, and greed, that reflects through its mind, speech, and bodily actions. Another definition has been given as that which besmears the soul with karma. To simplify even further, lesha can be defined as the karmic stain of the soul. Karma can be performed in three ways: thoughts, speech, and deeds, man, vachan, and kaya. Together, they are called yoga, as each of the actions cannot be performed without involvement of emotions such as anger, pride, deceit, or greed, which infinitely varying degrees of intensity from one being to another. However, we observe that in mundane life, yoga is inextricably woven together with passions. One cannot be divorced from the other. Lesha surrounds one all times. The 6 types of lesha correspond to 6 types of intensity of passions, from most intense to the mildest. They are called Krishna, black, Neela, blue, Kapoth, grey, Pitta, yellow, Padma, lotus pink, and Sukla, luminous white respectively. The first 3 are inauspicious and represent heavy karmic density, while the latter 3 are auspicious and represent the opposite. Hence, they condition good and bad deeds, punya and pap. All 6 types of karmic colorations indicate the attitude of the different individuals, from the most violent to the most compassionate. Each emotion matters, each action and its intention inevitably gets recorded into the camera of the universe, and all of us gets the printout of the picture at the right time. This is the beauty of karma, where lesha plays an important role. An example of 6 individuals is given to explain the different colorations of lesha. While the first individual with black lesha thinks of uprooting the tree to have its fruit, the second one with blue thinks of cutting the tree from its trunk. The third one with grey lesha considers cutting off the branches. The fourth with yellow contemplates on to break off the parts of the branches. The fifth with lotus pink plucks the ripened fruit, whereas the one with the most auspicious, luminous, white leisure picks up the ripened fruit that has fallen on the ground. This way, leisure also highlights the importance of preserving the environment and working with the nature rather than seeking to exploit or conquer it. Need not say that leisure is also about all the various degrees between the 6 colorations. It applies not only to nature, but to each of life's occurrences. Hence, the concept of leisure in Jain philosophy is also the pinnacle of friendliness with the environment and self-introspection. Shedding of karma, nirjara, in spite of liberation, appears linked to be far-fetched state. One thing can be observed surely. One feels lighter in a state of positive thoughts and even lighter in a state of equanimity. This is but the gist of nirjara. As each soul's ultimate purpose is to attain moksha, the soul needs to shed off each of its accumulated karma. We see that the purer the consciousness, the lighter its karmic baggage, and the more impurity indicates the heavier baggage. Nirjara has been simplified as falling off the previously bonded karma. Each of the beings keeps shedding karma and in turn keeps bounding new karma according to its intent while performing that action. Hence we see that whatever one does, intent matters the most, for only intent decides what type of karma one is binding, until when it will be bound and what will be the fruit. The time to decay and the corresponding potential strength of each component is fixed by the degree of passions with which the activity takes place. Besides the intent of the time of performing the specific karma, the inner state of various degrees of each of the 4 passions, that is anger, pride, deceit, and greed, also decides all the other factors of karma. Once the karma had its impact, it is transmitted from the spirit, coming back to an undifferentiated state, and in this manner, to the limitless pool of free karmas. However, that does not mean that the same karma can never be attached to the same soul again. It may return again and again to the G according to its passions and intensity. Amendingly, violence can only be done in mind, speech, and physical actions, to oneself and to someone else. Each bears negative results of the individual. The beauty of karma theory is that one cannot perform any action for someone else, but is inevitably bound to do karma for oneself only. Whenever it appears that one is doing any service to the others by their actions, it has to be observed that this service binds lighter karma for oneself only and not for others. Hence, helping others towards moksha with positive non-violence result in the lightest new karmic matter. So the path of moksha is quite a far one. However, to begin with, if one is knowledgeable and unconditionally shares that knowledge with everyone, one attracts lighter karmic matter for oneself. Driving a car requires utmost carefulness, as it is a powerful vehicle, which, if not taken care of well while being driven, can cause the demise of anyone's health, even of the one driving. Hence, along with remembering the route, the driver must be skillful and mild. To understand karma and its importance on the path of spiritual upliftment, this analogy can be fitted well. Where any carelessness leads to the degradation of one's joy. However, once he develops awareness, he takes control of his life and gets it back on track. Knowingly or unknowingly, we continuously strive for bigger, better, and more beautiful through each ending. But most of the time, this attempt is materialistic. Rarely do we get to know that eventually each of us is searching for our true nature, which is blissful and peaceful. One on a spiritual path is bound to contemplate karmas and their shedding. A seeker knows as the karmas are shed. There will be an increase in the energy, allowing further spiritual. It is like one step leads to another, and so on. Shedding the karma particles helps the being realize its true nature, eventually enhancing its energy. Human life, the most developed manifestations of consciousness, can either manipulate and annihilate or contribute to the flourishing any life form on the planet. However, it is a matter of concern that we are focusing our energy on the prior. Despite being independent on various forms, in various ways, we are carelessly and thoughtlessly wiping them out forever, at a rate of many species a day. In this context, Jain insight into karma that prompt and coddle every wild and refined soul are remarkably timed. It is wonderful that the real religion or call of duty starts from within. When one has innumerable questions, one introspects into the self and finds answers to most of them. Jain karma theory is like digging deeper into the self to find the purest of the treasures within. Treasures of the consciousness which do not harm the nature, but work with it. Karma is a complicated network of series of cause and effect, where each karma takes us back a distance in time. Each present karma is the effect of some previous karma that has worked as a cause for the same. And at the same time, that previous karma was the effect of some other previous karma that must have caused, and one's present reaction to specific karma enacts as the cause of future karma, and so on. In current times, when religions have been described as irrational and fearful, and the way they are becoming chaotic, Jain karma theory makes us feel free and independent. The whole purpose of studying the karma philosophy is to apply this wisdom in our daily lives, where we can see the bigger picture under the vision of cause that has been created by us back in time, and, in effect, the situation we are facing at present. One gets hold of the karma theory, one understands deeply that one's present circumstances have been laid down by oneself in the past. And when one gets aware of it, one questions his agony, which seems pointless. Famous scholar Robert Zaidna-Bose said, "The core of Jainism is the karma doctrine, the metaphysical dualistic priority, recognizing Jeev and Ajeev. It's very typical epistemology and ontology, which is the true basis of Anekantvad and Syadvad. Everything else is derived from this, including the Jain system of ethics." This is very important to realize. Ethics is not the starting point, but a consequence of others' thoughts. The Jainas themselves have forgotten this and want to believe that their religion is non-violence and nothing else. If anyone who has been philosophically trained critically thinks about this for more than 1 minute, it will be clear why this cannot be true. Hence, under the canopy of karma, we can improvise and lead a more peaceful and happier life. Especially the detailed description of karma in Jain philosophy is so logical that it leaves no query unanswered. Rather, it inspires its students for self-introspection and makes them understand that if anyone can be reformed in the world, it is me. If each individual in our society would start working on self-improvement through self-introspection, healthy criticism, and self-analyzation, that day is not far when peace will prevail on our planet.